this was it. The Americans and British were coming in from the west, the Soviets from the east. Hitler needed to try and thin his lines. And he tried to do this by cutting through the same way he got into France, through the Ardennes forest. Now, Operation Watch on the Rhine was Hitler's last-ditch attempt to try and make Britain and the US go into an unconditional surrender. His plan was to storm through the Ardennes forest using blitzkrieg tactics, now outdated, and cut round to the North Sea. If he could do this, he'd cut off the British and the Americans and force them into unconditional surrenders. His generals all knew this was complete malarkey.
Malarkey. Malarkey's slang for bullshit, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So, on December 16th, 1944, Operation Watch on the Rhine began. Now, a little bit of the backstory of the Allies. The success at D-Day and the invasions in southern France left the Allies completely stunned. They didn't know they were going to advance this fast, and neither did the Germans. This made their supply lines thin. And once the Battle of the Bulge began, well, it was only a matter of time before it would be stopped. Now, the Germans employed English-speaking Germans, dressed them up in Allied uniform, cut telephone wires and changed signposts. This worked to an extent, and over 200,000 soldiers along with 1,000 tanks stormed through the Ardennes forest. Now, in the first couple of days, it was a success. They had completely taken the Allies by surprise and kept rolling. But by December 26th, I think it is, the German supply lines were now stretched thin, and the Tiger IIs used up more oil than they could produce. It had reached its peak, but it had encircled 2 US divisions. One of them was at Bastogne. Now, the 101st and 82nd at Bastogne could not survive. They had very little ammunition and very little food. Luckily, they only had to hold on for a week. By January 3rd, Patton sent his panzer divisions, tank divisions in to liberate those at Bastogne. And it worked. The Bulge started to decrease. Hitler's last-ditch attempt had failed. It would now only be 4 months until they reached Berlin. Now, the Americans and British suffered around 80,000 casualties, while the Germans had casualties exceeding 120,000. That's including tanks. Now, the air support couldn't come at the beginning of the battle because the conditions that they were in, they couldn't see what they were hitting. So, they had to wait. And by mid-January, all the weather had cleared, they could do the most damage. And that was the famous Operation Watch on the Rhine. After this, the Allies would go on to conquer the Rhine in March, and then they would be in mainland Germany. The Reich was beginning to destroy itself. Little packs of German soldiers would start turning on their officers. Many would surrender to the Allies, but it was no use. They had already lost the war. So, that has been a history video about the Battle of the Bulge, Operation Watch on the Rhine, or Battle of the Ardennes, depending on which one you learnt to remember. And I will see you next week for the decisive battle of the European theatre.